In today's episode, we have Anastasia Lapik with us, who's going to talk about the importance of creating a transformational online program. You will also get to hear how mindset is a key factor in the success of a business, super easy ways to structure and develop your online course, and why you should look at the scientific, psychological, and spiritual aspects when building your program. And now, on with the show. Welcome to the Online Course Igniter podcast, where you'll hear from successful course creators and how they were able to turn their passion into a thriving online business empire. Hey everyone, thanks for coming on the show. Today we have Anastasia Lapik with alignvibration.com, and I met her the other day and was talking to her about some online courses and how she is able to help others with online courses with her business, and I'm really excited to dive into that business. So how are you doing today, Anastasia?
Hi, Jeremy. Thank you so much for inviting me. I'm doing great. I'm super excited. It's one of my passions, talking about transformational online programs. So can't wait to share all the stuff and experience with you.
Yes, definitely. And I was looking over your information and your site, and I was looking what you wrote to me about, your education in psychology and how mindset kind of really plays a big role in online courses. And I would like to talk about that too, because, we can talk all day about the technical and the cameras and the online course platforms, but really when it comes down to it, you have to have a good mindset, correct?
Yes. And, for me, the mindset work was a very personal journey and very personal experience because as a student myself, I really struggled with mindset. I was one of those bright students who did really well in the first few years of school. So there was a lot of expectation on intelligence. And I put a lot of expectation on myself, a lot of perfectionism. And when the grades start to fall and I simply didn't feel that I was catching up with the rest of the students, my self-esteem totally collapsed. And I got into this mindset that procrastination was the answer to everything. I was in the mindset that I was not good enough. No matter how much effort I put in, it didn't really matter. I was never going to get the results. I really struggled. And I guess my personal journey with mindset began then. It's trying to unravel the mysteries of the brain and whether it's actually possible for us to develop our own skills and intelligence, or whether it was more of a gift or a talent that you either had or not. And that was kind of the beginning, the questions that I started to pose for myself. And very ironically, for someone who was a terrible student, I was one of those people who would run to the university submissions office 1 minute before the deadline, hand in my essay. Everything was last minute. I struggled with writing. I struggled with reading. I managed to get through my first year of university okay, but as things got difficult progressively, my perfectionism and this mindset of not good enough really kicked in. And it meant that I struggled with studying. No matter how easy or difficult the content was, I simply wasn't able to engage. There was like a mental block inside. And I was on this journey to really understand what was the problem, what was the biggest challenge that was causing this situation. And when I graduated from university, I fell into a job as an academic learning coach. Ironically, I was teaching people how to be better learners at one of the best colleges in the second biggest city in the UK. So, the irony of life, I ended up in this place which forced me to study neuroscience, study psychology of the brain, to really understand the idea of transformation and what makes us tick, what makes us take action, what makes us motivated, and what really helps us to develop that level of self-esteem and self-belief and confidence that allows us to take in any information, analyze it, evaluate it, its relevance for us, and then take action and actually see the results in our own lives. And that's how my journey really began with the mindset.
Very good. Yeah, that's awesome. So you're at university and you're teaching others, and you're on this journey yourself. How did that translate? First, let's talk about the business side. How did we go from university into the business? And then I want to hear about how did the journey of the mindset transform? Because, like you said, you had this perfectionism, you procrastinated. That is something I personally struggle with myself. So I totally understand. So tell me a little bit about how you went from teaching in university to online business and teaching and helping others online. And then also let me know how you went through that transformation of your mindset to where you are today.
Yeah, sure. So, my journey actually began at the age of 16. At the age of 16, I started to work in education. I was a mentor. So I work with people for many, many years. I literally work with thousands of people throughout 10 years now. I run hundreds of workshops and delivered seminars to different types of people, students in universities and colleges, also educators, and people within corporate world as well. So I had this really a lot of educational knowledge and understanding and background and how people worked when it comes to learning. So it was like a natural progression for me to begin to dive deeper into the ideas of learning and how we can translate that to adult learning specifically. After I graduated university, as I said, I started work as an academic learning coach at college, where I stayed for 2 years. I developed my own curriculum there, mentoring and coaching curriculum for the students. I had absolute freedom there, which was brilliant. They've never had a role like mine before, so I was free to explore and do whatever I wanted. And I've created lots of interesting strategies and incorporated mindfulness meditation as a way to help students develop better mindset and combat stress. And when this journey ended for me, I decided to get into life coaching. So I was a life coach for a few years. I also studied to be a yoga meditation teacher. I really, dive deep into the mind from different avenues, not just from the scientific, the psychology and the neuroscience, but also from a spiritual perspective, really looking at those deeper questions of transformation and human evolution and human consciousness. So it was something that was really close to my own personal journey because, as I said, I struggled myself. I struggled with self-esteem. I struggled with confidence. I also struggled with learning. But at the same time, I was a geek when it came to learning. I loved learning. I loved studying. I would read all the books. I would watch all the documentaries, the transformational self-help videos on YouTube. So, the learning was a really big part of my life, even though I really struggled. So after a few years as a learning coach, I realized that there was this really big trend, in the self-development field. And that was online coaching and online courses. And that felt really attractive to me because it felt like a great way that I could really incorporate all the different skills that I've developed throughout the years, my skills within the education, helping people with mindset and transformation, but also skills as a life coach and really helping people create transformation within more personal issues like weight, well-being, psychology. I went on to study my master's in psychology to get a better understanding of whether I wanted to pursue career as a psychologist or whether I wanted to go more into personal business coaching route, which in the end I felt I had more freedom to create my own business and set up something that was truly unique and visionary and incorporated different types of methodologies and different types of subject areas such as psychology and neuroscience and also spiritual concepts that I've learned along the way and bring it all together with my experience also as a designer. I was a graphic designer and illustrator for some time as well. So I've really incorporated this together into creating student experiences which were scientific, very scientific, actionable, and also designed in the way that was appealing and engaging to the students. And that's how my business began. And since then, I worked with many different coaches creating transformation online programs and online courses, which is a huge passion of mine, and that's given me even more experience and understanding into how we can improve the way that we structure our transformational online programs and online courses to ensure that the promises that coaches make are actually being upheld and students are able to get the results in the most effective and efficient way possible.
Nice. That sounds wonderful and like a really great, well-rounded program because kind of like I stated in the beginning, we focus on one aspect of the courses, but you are hitting it from many different angles that I think could be very beneficial to students in general or anyone who wants to become an online instructor. So I want to kind of get into some of the strategies of your business and how you're able to implement some of these things that you've learned. But before we do that, I would just like to ask you, what was it like in the very beginning? I know that online courses and coaching kind of coexist a lot, and people who have online courses end up doing coaching or vice versa. So when you started off and you got online, how were you able to find your first clients, and what was that very first beginning phase of your business like?
Well, it was a really interesting transition for me because I was actually working as a web and graphic designer for course creators. I was working with Kajabi platform. Specifically, I was designing landing pages and designing course resources and materials. So in that way, I developed quite a large client base within that particular area. And then it evolves very naturally. It starts to evolve as I start to ask myself the question of what do I really want to be doing? How can I really serve people in the best possible way? And when I started to come up with new offers where instead of just creating learning resources like workbooks and, slide decks for clients, I was now actually creating the content with them as well and coaching them on how to create best content, which allowed me to incorporate all those skills I was developing in the 10 years prior. So it was a really natural evolution for me. And really, I've never really had a challenge of having to actively go out there looking for clients. I guess in that sense, I've been very lucky because I feel the kind of stuff that we offer at Align Vibration specifically is very niche. Not many people out there offering the same kind of services. So yeah, for me, it just seemed to click and work. And with time, as we grew as a business and as an agency, I've created a team of people who now work with me. This is now when we incorporated more strategic aspects of marketing into our own business and, thinking about this in a very different way. But at the beginning, it was definitely a very natural evolution from what I was doing before.
Okay, cool. So you start your business, you have some clients coming in, and you're helping them out. Now, of course, your program I'm sure has grown over the years as you've become better at this and have learned more yourself. But someone who is coming into this world and they want to create an online course, maybe it's for their business, or maybe it's a side income, or maybe they want to do it full time. What is the foundational strategy that you give in the beginning? What how do you help someone get started in that process?
Yeah, so I think for us, we have two different strategies and they relate to different aspects. We have one strategy which is all about actually creating and launching a course itself for the newbie course creators. And then there's another strategy which goes deeper than that. And the strategy is all about the identity of helping the person position themselves, not simply as a mere strategist or a coach or a course creator, but really as a transformational leader and helping them design courses in a way that allows them to get the kind of results for their student that will blow their minds, that will transform their lives in the way that they didn't expect. And the idea here, if we can really position the courses in this way and increase the impact to such a degree that when the students graduate the program, they want to tell their friends about it. So they end up referring you to a ton of people. They can't stop sharing about their experience on their social media. They become your biggest fan. They leave you amazing testimonials. So, really multiplying the marketing efforts that the people put in. We really focus on designing experiences that's going to create this long-term organic growth as well as shorter term marketing strategy that allows someone to launch the course. So we incorporate these two aspects here. So when someone comes in to work with us, say for a done for you project, we literally design a strategy for them from the beginning until the end in terms of how they're going to market the courses. Majority of my clients market them specifically for webinars. Some do for online challenges, but webinars seem to work really well. We don't advise that the client creates all the content in advance. So we actually market the course first with some idea and a structure and a design overview of what the course would look like. But we don't really tend to create the modules until we launch the course. And then we implement a really simple strategy for creating the course content itself. We actually do client interviews and anyone can do it themselves. the easiest way, in my opinion, to create module by module content. You interview yourself, or you have someone interview you, and then you either have yourself or an instructional designer create course scripts. And usually that's how we roll. We don't create any of the content beforehand. We usually advise the newbie course creators to deliver the course content live, because usually the first time you do it's the beta trial, it's the first time, and it's a good idea to really
Mhm.
validate your idea and to ensure that the kind of structure and the resources and the exercises and the content that you include in your course or program really works for your students. So I see people, record their course content beforehand, which can take months and months on end, and then realizing as they go through with their students that something isn't right, something isn't working, something isn't ordered in the right way. They don't like the structure, or they realize they've missed something out, or there's too much, right? Too much information. So
Mhm.
our best strategy is simply create an outline first, and then interview yourself, create the module scripts, create the slides and the workbooks, but then wait until you launch the course and start delivering it, to actually deliver and record your own content, and then get the feedback from your students. Get them to tell you what they like, what worked, what didn't work. And then, I think once you have this information and you've really validated your concepts, you can record professionally if that's what people wish to do. But until then, I think the best idea is really just to focus on getting people those results in the most effective and efficient way possible, and optimizing your course as you go through your beta trial.
That is brilliant information, and a major mistake that I definitely made over the years was going out and trying to build out the whole course first before focusing on the marketing. And now I've come to realize that what you are saying is the correct way to go and validate that information before spending all that time recording all those lectures.
Yeah.
Another thing that I really enjoyed was the way that you talked about interviewing for coming up for the information. I've actually said this out loud to myself before, that if I could just have someone ask me questions, I feel like I could get that content out a lot easier. So I really like the interview style. Maybe you could get a friend or a family member to just ask you questions about your industry or niche so that you could get those questions written down. That sounds like a really great strategy.
Yeah, it works really well for our clients. And we've tried different ways to create online courses. We try to just get resources from clients and, do it ourselves and do some research. But what we found works best is definitely the interviews, because when you're talking about things that you're passionate about, you're really allowing everything to come out unfiltered. You're not sat there analyzing every single idea that you're putting down on the sheet of paper and thinking, oh, actually, I don't really want that in here, or that shouldn't go in there. When you interview yourself and you just talk, lots of different things come out that perhaps wouldn't otherwise. And I think that's a really beautiful process as well for the person to hear themselves talk about the course that they're going to be delivering and the content that they're really passionate about. And on our side, whether you're doing it yourself or you have an instructional designer transcribe and create the scripts, it becomes a really easy process, because once you have the structure in place and you know what modules you're going to have and which lessons you're going to have within those modules, all there is then left to do is to ensure you have that information in place and you have appropriate activities and exercises that will allow students to really integrate and embody the knowledge and take action. So yeah, it becomes a really effortless process and actually saves a ton of time. From our experience, it can save up to 50 hours of work doing it this way.
Yeah, that's really cool. I like that strategy a lot. So whenever someone is starting out and they want to create this course, and we're doing a beginning version to try to get out there and test the market, I know some people listening to this particular podcast might be complete beginners and they don't have an audience, they don't have an email list. So someone who's kind of starting from ground zero, and they know what kind of course they want to create, and they know how to go about creating that course. But how would you start finding that audience in the beginning so that you can launch a course to them? Are there any strategies or any type of traffic methods or marketing strategies that you're more interested in to get someone to start building that relationship and building that audience?
Yeah, so I think for me, it's all about asking the ideal clients the questions. Um, they are the ones who's going to give you the answers about the marketing strategy that you need to use. And I think for me, market research interviews have been a lifesaver. It has really helped us to differentiate our own business to ensure that it's different and unique in the way that actually matters to our ideal clients rather than different for the sake of being different. And that's what I stress with my clients as well. It's, the first process is always about going out there and actually engaging with your ideal clients. And from our perspective, also, there's two reasons for that. We have the marketing reasons, right? To make sure that we can interview people and ask them what the biggest challenge is or their biggest problem and how do they usually consider the solutions and what helps them decide, whether to buy or not to buy. So you can literally get them to tell you, and then you can implement that in your marketing copy, in your webinar copy, whatever strategy you decide. And then from a perspective of the content creation itself, if you really get to understand the biggest challenges that people are experiencing. And I think another thing, just quickly to emphasize, that most people underestimate that unless you have your niche really tightly defined, you're going to have the challenge of different kind of people with different kind of needs. The broader your niche is, the harder it is to create transformational experiences. It's not impossible, but it's definitely more challenging because people who are at different stages in their development with different types of, if you're a business, if you're creating a business course with different types of businesses, for example, going to have a very different needs and different expectations, and they need different kind of activities and resources. So if you really want to create a transformation experience, having a really tightly defined niche where you really get to understand your ideal client and ensure that your ideal clients, the ones that join your program, are at relatively similar space and mental, emotional space, physical positioning in their life, is going to really help you to understand the kind of support, the activities, the communities, the content that you need to add to your online program. And the interviews is the most powerful way, in my opinion, to do both. Get your marketing strategy on point, make sure you really understand how to communicate to your ideal clients, and then you really understand what their needs are so you can support them in the best possible way.
Yeah, I like this. It just really comes back to talking to that audience and talking to those people, uh, and finding out what they want, and then just delivering it to them.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. And I think marketing strategy, in my opinion, it doesn't really matter what strategy you use. Everyone is unique. Everyone has their own preferences. Everyone has their own values. Everyone has their own gifts. So some people are going to be great at webinars. Other people are going to be great at just jumping on calls with people, and having these sales conversations. Other people might enjoy email marketing or having a blog or having a podcast or showing up on social media all the time. And I think we live in the world where there's so much information, there are so many strategies out there, and all strategies change overnight. So I think, the most important thing that we do at the beginning of our clients is really helping them to hone in on who they are and what is it that they're passionate about and how is it that they're interested to show up during their launch strategy. So once you really identify and know what appeals to you and what you like doing and what you don't like doing, then you won't procrastinate. You'll really go after it no matter what strategy it is. So I think before selecting a marketing strategy, just remembering it's not the strategy really necessarily that's going to do the work. It's you taking actions consistently every day, showing up in a way that works for you, and remembering that if it's your first course, it's not going to be perfect, and it doesn't need to be perfect. It's a process of learning. It's a process of evolution and optimization. As you go through your launch, as you go through your course, everything will change. The second time you do it, it will change. The third time you do it, it will change. And it's a gradual process. So I think just remembering not to be disheartened if your launch doesn't turn out in the way you planned out, or if the strategy that you used doesn't work because you hate it and you actually don't want to implement it. There's always an opportunity to change and do something differently.
Hello, course creators. Are you struggling with marketing and selling your online course? If so, then head over to our free community where successful course creators are ready to help you create, market, and sell your expertise. Go to onlinecourseigniter.com/community now to join. That's onlinecourseigniter.com/community. Very good. So you've gone and you get yourself interviewed or have someone interview you. You kind of get out the information that you want to talk about. And then you go and you're talking to your audience and you're finding out what they're interested in and how you can serve them best. And you gather this information and you have the course idea ready to present to them. But I know that a lot of people struggle with when I'm talking to other people in the online course industry, it's just with that confidence that they don't want to get on camera or they feel uncomfortable that they can sell courses or they're afraid of that failure. How do you help someone overcome those fears and kind of get them moving along?
So, it's so common. Pretty much with all our clients, we have to do an element of life coaching as well. So just remembering it's really normal. The first time you do something, it's always going to be scary. And it's by taking action and, those small actions and seeing those small results that the confidence is going to get built up. And it takes time. And I think you don't have to show up on camera if you don't want to. There's many ways you can deliver course content without being on camera. You can just do slides. I like to use Zoom, for our newbie course creators. They just use Zoom. If they want to show up and for, people to see their face with the slides, great. If they don't, they can turn the camera off so they can just deliver the module simply, through slides. I think there's drawbacks to both ways, but I think it's just deciding what feels comfortable for you. And as your confidence evolves, then you can choose new ways and show up in ways that feel more comfortable and more exciting and more expansive for you. So I think just remembering it's a process. And also, I think when it comes to creating online courses, generally people expect that it should just be easy, right? They see loads of ads online. They think, wow, all I need to do is create a course so I can get some residual income and it's going to be great and I'm going to make lots of money. And I think a lot of people go into course creation with that intention. And they really underestimate just how much work it is, and not just physical work I'm talking about, but also mental and psychological work, because you really have to upgrade yourself and who you are as you're showing up in this process. Because the kind of person who has a successful online course and who has mastered the marketing strategy, right, and who gets the impact for their students is probably not the same person at the beginning or of just getting this idea of creating an online course. They're two different people in two different places in life. So it's remembering that you will evolve yourself naturally. And if you allow this process to unfold without judgment, without expectation, with allowance and acceptance of where you are at every given moment, it's going to make things a lot easier, and it's not going to create as much pressure and procrastination. Because I think one of the reasons why I'm helping clients create online courses is because their students procrastinating, they're not taking action, and majority of course creators themselves are procrastinating and not taking action, right? So it's like a mirror reflection, but really helping people move through this procrastination by just helping them to understand we avoid doing things that feel uncomfortable because they don't feel good, right? We don't want to do them. They're scary. They make us feel not good enough. So really working through those belief systems that come up for you as a course creator, as well as ensuring that your course itself also allows your students to work through those belief systems, to develop new perspectives and mindsets that are conducive to learning, conducive to taking action. Right. And it's a process. And in my opinion, mindset needs to be an integral part of any transformational program. If you want to create just an online course with some cool information or a few strategies, that's fine. You don't necessarily need, mindset training there. But if you're creating a transformational program that is promising results and, really promising change in people's lives. So if you're helping someone lose weight, or if you're helping someone overcome anxiety, or if you're helping someone set up a new business, right? There's a lot of belief system that need to be addressed in this process. And I think course creators realize this themselves as they go through a process of creating the course. They also realize just how important the mindset is and how important our belief systems are to how we feel and how we think and the kind of actions that we take. So without addressing this core piece, it can become a struggle. And I do see a lot of people, get stuck, unfortunately. So sometimes it's a good idea to work with a coach or do some mindset work by yourself. But either way, work on your mindset, work on your belief systems. That's really the root of our ability to stay focused, take action, and see the results both in our own lives and the lives of our students as well.
Oh, yeah, it's so important. It's just something that you just don't realize in the beginning. Like you said, you feel like you're just going to go out and launch a course and everything's going to be gravy. And then when you get even a couple years into it, you really start realizing that the mindset is so much more important than all the other things. You can learn the technical, and you can learn the software and the hardware and how to do all that stuff, but getting the mind right. So knowing that you can be successful and that you can achieve what you want to achieve is really a hard, tricky thing. So someone who is just they're stuck in that, they're procrastinating. I've been there before. I rather sit here and refresh the revenue report than do the actual work that I'm supposed to be doing. So someone who is really stuck in that situation, how can you get them unstuck, or how can you upgrade their mindset? What are some tips or tricks or anything that you can think of that can really help get that person in a forward direction again?
Well, I think this is for both, right? For students and for the course creators themselves, for the program creators themselves. I think understanding that procrastination is not the problem in and of itself, right? It might appear as a problem, but really procrastination is a symptom. And there is a reason, if you're avoiding doing something, there is a good reason for it. It's usually because your subconscious mind, right, or your ego mind, however you want to call it, is resisting it. It doesn't want to do it because for whatever reason, somewhere in your subconscious mind, you have a belief system that's defining taking action more scary and negative than not taking action. And there are many reasons why this can happen. Very often, it can be self protection strategies, for us to remain safe where we are because the unknown is scary, or because we are afraid of being judged by other people. So it could be so many different reasons. So really, it's about doing your own inner work. I like journaling. I really advise journaling to my clients, and identifying the scary action, getting to the bottom of what is it that you have to believe to be true to be feeling in this way in relation to this particular action. And once you understand what that is, uncovering whether there are any other belief systems around this. So I'll give you an example. For me personally, it took me quite a long time to get to a place where I could take action consistently. And that meant working through many, many beliefs. One of my belief systems that I've struggled to identify for many years was the idea that I really resisted responsibility. I hated responsibility. So as soon as there was any kind of pressure put on me, even from myself, my mind would just go in block. And no matter how hard I tried, I just couldn't do it. I couldn't focus. I couldn't concentrate. I would get tired. And that's a really challenging thing to live with, right? When your whole life is about responsibilities and, in your business and your life. So for me personally, it was really getting to the bottom of how did I come to feel this way? And I realized that my family, they were workaholics. They would take responsibility for other people and their emotions, and they would work themselves, to death. They worked and worked and worked. And I was observing that as a child and really seeing just how much it impacted their well-being and their health, how they felt in life, and also how it made them be responsible for other people. So in my head, I developed this idea that responsibility is bad. And I felt responsibility was protecting me. So, or lack of responsibility was protecting me from giving myself up to other people. So I hope you can see just how complex our belief systems are. But if you can get to the bottom of that and identify that actually taking responsibility for myself is not the same as taking responsibility for others, and getting to the bottom of it, and working through this emotionally. And once you work through, the belief system just disappears. It's just no longer there anymore. It doesn't make sense to you anymore because you've identified that it's not true and it's not serving you. And it works like magic. Once you get to this place, the procrastination will just not be there anymore because it's no longer scary, right? Now it makes sense to take responsibility because it's something that's going to serve you well. So that's one of my, examples. But I think another one is creating routines, helping your brain get into routines and habits of doing something consistently will make things just simpler and easier. And that's simply hacking your neurobiology. I'm sure most people realize that when they go to the gym consistently, it becomes easy. As soon as they missed out for 2 weeks, it's a whole new story again, right? Trying to rebuild your habits can be challenging. So having consistent routines, having times when you wake up consistently, when you do work consistently, any kind of self practices, things that you do for yourself, creating those consistent habits and make sure that your energy levels are high and your mind is operating at its optimum. That way, generally speaking, you'll be able to cope with these challenges, emotions that arise as the result of some limiting belief systems. And you'll be able to deal with stress better. And in result, you won't be procrastinating as much because you'll just have that more mental energy and physical energy to take action as well.
Yeah, I like that. I've noticed lately that I started designating different days for routine, where I would say, okay, on Tuesdays I'm going to edit the podcast. On Wednesdays I'm doing coaching calls. On Thursdays I'm writing blog articles, and just the routine of knowing that those days I've set aside for that kind of work. I feel like I don't procrastinate as much on that type of work because I know when I'm going into that day, that's what I need to be focused on. And building that routine over time is really helping out because I feel like I'm getting more work done, understanding that this day is the day for writing and I'm going to sit down and just write. And if I just do that one thing, then I'll feel accomplished. And then once you have that accomplishment, it really drives more motivation to continue forward. So I believe having some sort of routine and like you said, getting up at the same time and getting a good night's rest every night at the same time, I think is super important. So thinking about to the beginning days when you were just starting off, you were new to online business, you were new to the coaching clients or even your graphic design clients, and you were in that beginning phase. Someone listening to this podcast right now is in that spot, and they might have not a great belief system. Their mindset might need a little bit of work, and they just need a push or help getting started. Is there any advice that you could give directly to that person listening right now?
Taking action. I know it sounds really easy, but it's so difficult at times to take action. And I think just remembering that without taking action, we're not going to see results. No matter of learning of information is just not going to help you. It's about applying what you study. And the mistake that I've made personally is I felt like I was not ready. So I was doing all these online courses and reading all these books and thinking, just if I know just one more strategy or hear from one more guru or teacher, finally I'll get it and I'll get there and I'll feel confident. No, it doesn't work this way. And it doesn't work this way in terms of our brains. The neuroscience is very clear on this. It's by taking action, right, that we create new neural pathways and we become more confident in a certain skill. So the more you do something, the better you become at it. The more action that you take, even if there are mistakes and failures as the result of this action or any kind of setbacks, it's the process of making mistakes that allows us to learn and become better as coaches, better as marketers, better as course creators. So remembering that this process is organic, there is no running away from it. If you're not taking action, if you sat there procrastinating because you don't think you're ready, then you're probably going to stay, the same place 6 months from now on. Unless you take action, you're not going to get results and you're not going to get confident. And you're not going to be the kind of person who can have a business, right? Who can be a great coach because you just don't have the experience and you can't get experience without taking action.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So, thinking about the future of your business and your future goals, where would you like to take your business? What do you see yourself doing in the next, say, 5 or 10 years?
Wow. There are so many different goals and ideas and intentions that I have. So I'm not going to share all of them, but I will share one thing that's really much, very much related to my current business. The agency that I've built as Aligned Vibration and helping people create these transformational student experiences. I love learning. I love psychology. I love neuroscience. I don't see many people talking about this. So I would love to see our agency, and myself included, position as someone who is the leader in the industry and who can really share this knowledge with more and more people, because I believe by creating more influence, not for the sake of having influence, but really for the sake of spreading the message, that's where I really would love to see our business go, because I feel like the more people know and understand this, wisdom about learning, about transformation, about the mind, by understanding the psychology and neuroscience and really integrating this into their online program, the quicker we can, I think, as a global community, create a shift in a very positive direction for our planet as a whole and for people, on this planet. And there's a lot of people struggling in many ways, whether it's mental health or well-being, physical health, trying to create business and live their purpose. And a lot of people are struggling in these areas. And the more people that take, rubbish online programs, the more people are going to be demotivated, because they're going to think the problem is within them. But very often, from my experience, I know that the structure of the online program and the way that it's designed, and if it's made to be a transformational experience, you can increase student results, by a significant number. And when you understand the data and you realize that it is also in your hand to be able to create transformations for your students, then it's also a level of responsibility, I think, for us as course creators to create the best possible programs which are truly transformational and, support our students in the way, with the mindset, with developing those habits and routines, with developing the correct skills, and only giving them as much information as they need without overwhelming them. And if I can spread this message and, help more people do that, then I'll be very, very happy.
Awesome, Anastasia. Well, I hope that that happens. I hope that you become that leader and you help others on a major scale, because I think you have some really great information to share. I feel like this episode is just going to really hit home to a lot of people, because I know so many people out there who struggle with exactly what you're talking about. And I just hope that you have that success in the future where you can get out there and help these people. So if anyone wants to find out more about you and your business, can they do that online?
Our website, alignedvibration.com. Usually people can book a discovery call with me and have a chat. I'm more than happy to chat with people to see, if we can serve people best, either as an agency, we've done for you projects and actually creating courses for a client, or through coaching and helping the person become the best course designer and deliverer. So for the website mainly, but we are opening our Facebook group, which is super excited. It's going to be a think tank community. So it's not just going to be your average group where people come in and post loads of promotional and marketing content. It's going to be really about research, looking at journal articles, having conversations and debates, hopefully, about how we can best support people and students as coaches and as course creators and transformational leaders. So if someone's interested in that, go to my profile, Anastasia Lapik, on Facebook, and my Facebook group details are on there.
Perfect. Well, we'll definitely put those in the show notes also. Anastasia, thank you for coming on the show today. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you so much for having me, Jeremy.
Thank you so much for joining us today, Anastasia. You can find out more about her and her business by visiting alignedvibration.com, or you can get the show notes of this episode along with links and resources by visiting onlinecourseigniter.com/26. Make it a great week. Thank you for tuning in to the Online Course Igniter podcast. Make sure you subscribe wherever you're listening so that you don't miss an episode. If you would like to learn more marketing strategies and how to sell your online course, then also check out our free community where we share tips, tricks, and tutorials at onlinecourseigniter.com/community.